Hello, beautiful souls. Your soul assignment this month is to be aware of the thoughts that you're choosing. Here we are in Gemini season, and I guess Gemini is all about our thoughts. It's about the intellect. It's about connection, communication. Gemini is very curious, very open-minded as well. And look, I know the Gemini archetype well. It's my birthday at this full moon, actually. I enter a new decade of 50. So yeah, happy birthday me. It feels like a very exciting time. And look, I love a good Saggy full moon. The Saggy energy is beautiful in that it's very expansive. It's very adventurous. It's very, it's like the seeker of adventure, the seeker of greater wisdom, the philosopher, very much out in the world and experiencing things and learning that higher wisdom in that way. And I guess, the polarity of the Gemini and Saggy, for me, I feel that they are probably the most common of the polarities of the those 6-month cycles in the zodiac. And, it's almost like Saggy goes out into the world to experience the world, takes you out into the world. And then Gemini energy is all about the connections we make in the world, and I guess it's the stories as well in those interactions that we have out there in the world. This is where the energy is heightened right now. So this is where being aware of the thoughts that you're choosing is really important, because the stories that we tell ourselves, they can either open us to the world, open us to others, open us to a whole bunch of different experiences and belief in ourselves, or it can close us down. It can close us off from others. It can close us down to the potential that we hold and that creative seed that we choose to or don't choose to actually take action on. And I guess if we consider, imagine that we're a child, okay? In those first few years of life, we have an experience, and from that experience we have a feeling. And what we tend to do is, from that feeling, we put meaning to that feeling. We create a story about that feeling, and that shapes our beliefs about the world and our perceptions about the world, and ultimately about ourselves. And unfortunately, if you're listening to this right now, then you've grown up in an era where there was a lot of judgment, there was a lot of comparison, there was a lot of expectation of our behavior and the roles or identities. I've spoken about this before, that we were expected or felt that we were expected to fulfill. And so therefore we naturally had these experiences, and we developed a perception, a story, a thought about ourselves or about the world or about others, of what would happen if we did or didn't fulfill a certain thing. And it's almost like that's where we created those stories to keep us safe, to keep us secure, to prevent abandonment, rejection, that kind of thing. And we started to develop patterns within that, seeing that, if I do this, they like that. Therefore, they like me, right? Or if I do this, they don't like that, and therefore they don't like me, right? And these are the stories that we tell ourselves. And what we actually really need to recognize is that none of this is actually reality. So the stories that we tell ourselves are just stories, and they come from our thoughts. And I guess the first step in recognizing whether this is reality or not is to pay attention to the thoughts that are happening in your day-to-day moments. Do you know that it's said, apparently, they did a study in 2020, that we have about 6,000 thoughts each day, right? I don't know about you, but I don't remember, well over half of them. I barely remember 2 or 3 of the thoughts that I've had during the day. Do you know what I mean? It's kind of like we have that many thoughts. So and the other thing is, they reckon, this is like neuroscientists, psychologists, all the professionals, they believe that we only actually utilize about 5 to 10% of our conscious mind, right? Of our conscious cognitive capacity, which therefore says that 90 to 95% of our thoughts or our cognitive, our brain action is actually subconscious. And I mean, sure, that might go into various things, that's happening in the body, but if we have 6,000 thoughts and say 90% of that is actually subconscious, that's actually a really small amount that we're actually conscious of what we're choosing, right? Or maybe not even conscious of what we're choosing because they might be automated, but conscious recognition of what we're thinking, right? So I invite you this month to catch that 10% that make use of your mind, your intellect, this Gemini energy in a really positive way. Because if you're allowing the subconscious to actually rule your thoughts, then it's coming from that place. I would say 99% of the human population is coming from that place of those old stories that we developed when we were younger, which, as I say, was about comparison, judgment, judging ourselves, judging others. And it doesn't give you a real indication, nor move you towards necessarily what it is that you want to create. So this Sagittarius Full Moon is giving you an opportunity to expand your horizons, expand the mind, going into the higher mind. So get curious, observe these thoughts that you're choosing and just watch them to begin with. Like, become conscious of them, notice what's happening, and then I guess give it a judgment. And maybe not a judgment, let's say give it an assessment. Is this a positive thought? And by positive, I mean, is it uplifting? Is it expanding? Is it opening you towards yourself and to the world? Is it encouraging you? Is it giving you confidence? Is it giving others confidence? Is it uplifting? Or is it a negative thought? And by negative, I mean, is it judgmental? Is it comparing? Is it coming from a place of fear or doubt or lack? So when you start to pay attention, that's the first step to actually choosing more wisely your stories and your beliefs, and therefore how you feel and how you open and expand to the world. What you choose to put your energy into, and first and foremost from the thought, is going to actually be what you're creating. So if an example is, if you deem yourself to not be worthy, to not be enough, to not have enough, and that is the unconscious or the conscious thought that's going around in your mind that takes up a lot of your mental energy, then chances are that's actually going to be the reality that you're experiencing. And it doesn't mean that it's the reality. It means that that is the energy that you're embodying. And so, as I say, the invitation this month is to be aware of these thoughts, make an assessment. And you know what? That sometimes we get a bit shocked and we have a bit of remorse about what we actually notice we're doing to ourselves and to others. But once you notice, once you have awareness, then you have choice. And you can be conscious in your choice, not just reacting from that place of survival or fear or all those other things that keep us stuck or keep us limited. So where have your thoughts been keeping you stuck? And chances are, the last new moon, the Taurian new moon, it was a pretty, it felt like a shift in the cycle. There's been a lot of breaking down. The last couple of years I've talked about it, the old identities, roles. We're reshaping. We've been in that chrysalis of the butterfly, and it's kind of like, I feel like that new moon for many people, which was only a couple of weeks ago, was actually perhaps that first opportunity for some clarity of what's no longer working in your life. And it doesn't necessarily have to be a physical change. I feel like a lot of it for many people is actually a great inner change, and sometimes in ways that are really hard to articulate to the outer world. So I guess, in what way has your inner world been shifting and changing? And in what way have your thoughts been keeping you stuck? And how can you at this time start noticing your thoughts a little bit more? It could be about taking a breath. It could just be about being present. I use an exercise where I listen, utilizing the throat chakra, just listening when I'm out walking. And that's when I can start to notice what my thoughts are doing. Because if I'm silencing the automated stuff, then I'm listening and I start to hear and witness what comes through. But then once you witness, as I say, you can start to see whether you need to reframe or reshape some of these thoughts. Because this new moon offered a new opportunity. And this new moon kind of somehow helped all the madness, all that intensity of the months beforehand, get grounded in the body, help you realize that Taurian energy. So we need to build on that Taurian energy. And it's all about, your values and what brings you pleasure and joy. And so perhaps you witnessed what wasn't bringing you pleasure and what needed to shift, what potential pathway you can take to start bringing more pleasure or to be more aligned in your values. And so this is the next step, is going that little bit deeper of how can you allow your thoughts, the conscious and the unconscious ones, because if you start reshaping the conscious ones, that's going to filter down into the unconscious. So how can you start being more aware of and reshaping your thoughts to support the new life that you're stepping into? It's really time to start owning what's calling you, owning what you desire, not from a place of unhealthy desire, but from a place of what's going to deeply nourish you, what's going to nurture you, what are your needs, what are your values, and how can you really start owning them so that you can live the life that you want to live. And so this month's practice is a really simple one. It's about witnessing, being aware of the thoughts that you're choosing, being aware of the stories you tell yourself. And then really ultimately what we want to do is kind of get out of the head a little bit and come back to the heart. So really simple practice this month to support that. And it's really simple. You can just start by basically, it's like a little massage. It's a bit of a massage, but if you bring your hands in sort of opposite directions, we're stretching, and then you can pull also the skin, the energy around the heart. So going in sort of all directions with that, pushing and pulling. And then perhaps we'll do a little bit of a circle in one direction and a circle back in the other direction. We just want to activate this heart area. So giving it a bit of a massage. Up on the sternum even. You can give your sternum a little bit of a tap. This is really good for supporting your immune function as well. It activates the thymus, related to the heart chakra. So all this just supports that opening of the heart. And so this is one way that you can start moving from the head to the heart. And I guess that's what this whole 2027 shift is all about. It's the mutation that's supporting us to stop living from here and to start living from here, to start honoring our feelings more. And the first step is to get out of this head. So we just activate this heart a little bit. Activate the heart. And then we'll even just hold, say, an energy ball in front of the heart here. Just taking a few breaths, and as you breathe in and out, allow that ball of chi, that ball of energy to expand and contract as you breathe in and out, whichever way that works for you. Expanding and contracting on the in and the out breath. And notice what's happening to the heart. Notice what's happening to your body. Notice what's happening to your mind. Does this support you to start stepping out of the mind a little bit more and coming more into the heart? And this Gemini energy is actually quite activated at the moment, which, as I say, is the intellect and the mind and, information. So it's activated because Uranus moved into Gemini at the end of April. And I guess Uranus is kind of the great disruptor. It helps you, it heightens what is in need of change, but you've been unwilling to change, So you might find over the next 7 years, as Uranus passes through Gemini, that you have sudden upheavals and shocks that actually support you shifting what needs to be shifted. Shifting those stories creating new stories. And your biggest gift, I think, during that would be to really keep dropping into the heart so that you can stay present and just honor your feelings rather than the mind. So do this for as long as feels right for you. It's a beautiful practice. I can feel the whole of my chest expanding. I don't know about you. I'd love to hear of any results that you have from it. And I wish you so many blessings at this full moon and as you journey through Gemini season. And may you expand into the wonderful life that is on offer for you. Just beware of these thoughts that you're choosing. Wishing you many blessings.